Israeli war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. Y'all know him. He is the prime minister of Israel. He is a known liar and suspected war criminal. And he is wildly unpopular in his own country of Israel right now. So, what's he do? Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to DC. Now, you might ask why, right? Why would Benjamin Netanyahu decide all of a sudden to come to Washington, D.C., particularly at a moment where he's so wildly unpopular, where he has so much unrest domestically? Why would he take his time to travel to D.C.? Well, the specific reason, the formal reason, is that Bibi will be giving a speech to a joint meeting of Congress. And he's, as I said, so unpopular at home. It's very clear he's trying to garner support around the country, around the United States, I mean, and he's also trying to garner support around the globe as Israel continues to prosecute an illegal and genocidal war in Palestine. That's an important thing for us to know and an important thing for us to understand as we talk about Netanyahu's trip to DC. Now, his visit doesn't just come as his popularity is plummeting. The visit also comes as Gaza's death toll continues to surge. And we'll talk about the Gaza death toll in just a little bit with our War on Gaza report. But the number is close to 40,000 conservatively. That's not counting people under the rubble. That's not counting people who haven't been detected. 40,000 people dead. There have been new deaths reported among hostages, Israeli hostages, and people who Israel's trying to pursue, trying to return home. They've been killed as well by Hamas. Um, and despite that, Benjamin Netanyahu seems wholly uninterested in ending the massacre. It's been 9 months and counting. The devastation is obvious. The violence, the gruesome loss of life is apparent. The whole world is speaking up, and Bibi Netanyahu is not doing anything about it. At least nothing substantive, except turning up the screws, except continuing to pretend to be doing a diplomatic solution, except pretending that a ceasefire is imminent. These are the things that he is claiming. And so, against the backdrop of that, it's very, very challenging, very, very challenging for uh, anybody to take Bibi's trip to DC seriously. So, why do it now? And why is the US Congress allowing it to happen now? Well, Benjamin Netanyahu's strategy is quite clear and quite easy. Netanyahu needs support. And every single day that this genocidal war in Gaza is continued, more and more people around the country, more and more people around the world are saying, wait a minute, this is wrong. This is unjustifiable. No matter what you think about what happened on October 7th, there's absolutely no defensible way, no defensible way that you can explain the grossly disproportionate response by Israel, the indiscriminate response by Israel. You say you're going for Hamas, and yet 2/3 of the people killed are women and children. So many non-combatants in the last week or two. We've seen 9 or 10 schools bombed, and school wasn't in session, but they were uh, holding people who've been unhoused. They were holding non-combatants. They were holding people who were looking for shelter. And so, as this is happening, the world is noticing. When humanitarian aid is blocked, the world is noticing. The International Court of Justice continues to issue ruling after ruling that does not stand in Israel's favor. Warrants are being petitioned for members of the Israeli government, Yoav Gallant in particular, Itamar Ben-Gvir in particular, and Benjamin Netanyahu in particular, as well as members of Hamas. These warrants are being issued because of the war crimes that have been committed. That's what the ICC is all about, even though they usually focus on Africa and not European nations or first world nations. But that's another story for another time. The point is, Netanyahu is clearly operating in a manner that is alienating himself and the country of Israel from the global community. So they have no choice but to try to regain support. And what does Netanyahu do when he wants to regain support? He always comes back to the United States, because the United States is always going to be good to him. The last time we saw Netanyahu make a move like this, it was when President Obama was in office. And at that time, he was showing up Obama. He was effectively saying, I don't need to listen to Obama. I can go around you and speak to your country, speak to your nation. I can go around you, and there's nothing you can do about it, Obama. Now, with Trump, they had their own little bromance, so there was no need for this type of recalcitrance. There was no need for this type of disrespect. There was no need for this type of circumvention. He ain't have to do that. But why does the Congress respond this way? Well, they ain't got a whole lot of options. Part of running for mainstream office, when you're running as a member of one of these two corporate wings of the same bird, Democrat and Republican, is you adopt and agree with the notion that Israel is our friend and there's not an inch of daylight between us and Israel, and therefore whatever Israel does, we stand by. If that is the mantra, you ain't got no choice but to show up when Netanyahu comes. And when Netanyahu comes and makes a case to the United States about why you shouldn't do an Iran deal as he did before, or he makes a case for why you need to continue to arm them, or as he's always done, or if he makes a case for why Hamas is still in control and this war in Gaza has to continue. Whenever he makes these cases, people have to be there, because if you're not there, it makes you look like you don't stand with Israel. And if you don't stand with Israel, you can't be a successful American politician. If you stand there with him, then you're complicit in a certain extent, to a certain extent, right? So you got to pick your battle. You got to pick your poison. You got to make your choice about how you're going to respond to Netanyahu. But Netanyahu standing up and doing that is a huge, huge deal.